Coming back with our second period in just a little bit. For now, it's time for our first intermission report. With that, we hand it off to Nico Horning.
Thank you, Lucas. Welcome into the Crunch Intermission Report. 2-1. Americans lead the Crunch here at Blue Cross Arena in downtown Rochester. Nico Horning here with you after one period of play. The Americans scored just minutes into the game, and the Crunch responded and leveled things off for the majority of the first period with a score by Simon Reifers, but the Americans added a last-minute score just before the conclusion of the first period. So on this intermission, we'll break things down for you, plus Lucas Favali caught up with Crunch defenseman Ryan Jones. We'll have that for you on the other side. 2-1, Americans lead the Crunch. We'll be right back on ESPN Radio.
This is the Cup Playoffs on ESPN Radio Syracuse.
Welcome back to the Crunch Intermission Report. The Americans lead the Crunch 2-1 after one period of play here at Blue Cross Arena in downtown Rochester. Before we get into much of a recap here, Lucas Favali caught up with Crunch defenseman Ryan Jones.
This is Syracuse Crunch Hockey on ESPN 97.7 and 100.1.
Back here at Blue Cross Arena inside the Crunch Intermission Report. Nico Horning here with you. The Americans lead the Crunch 2-1. Let's take a look back at the highlights of this opening period. And the Amerks tried to set the tone early. Instead, Joseph Ciccone was called for slashing just 3 minutes in, and the Crunch went on an early power play. The Crunch had a good chance to do something early on, especially on the road, up 2-0 in the series. However, Gage Gonsalves was called for hooking, and that offset the Americans' load penalty. And with that, the Amerks got the home crowd fired up just 5 minutes in.
It's an important moment here for Jones to slow it down, maybe get that penalty killed, and then send it down ice to kill off some clock. Well, they do. Get it up to center. Out of the box with Ciccone. While the Crunch bench saying he played it while he was in the box, which would have been a penalty. A legal play, though, for Ciccone, who goes and makes a change in the Amerks start their first power play of the game. 0 for 7 so far in this series. Weissbach sprints ahead, gains the line, cuts to the middle, hands it off, a shot, score! Isak Rosean gives Rochester a 1-0 lead, 5:31 into the opening period. A power play goal off the rush. And Rochester, for the first time in the series, leads, and it's 1-0.
So it was Isak Rosean who gave the Americans their first lead of the series, and it gave the Rochester fans something to cheer about, which has been hard to come by in this series so far. So the Americans 1 for 8 now in the power play in this North Division semifinals. The question was, how would the Crunch respond? Their first time playing on the road in these semifinals, and well, less than a minute later, the blue and white did just that.
Steal of the blue line here is Gonsalves left wing, flubs a shot attempt as Metza came across defensively, played down low Reifers. Now it's Barré-Boulet, back to Reifers, a one-timer score! Simon Reifers on a give and go with Barré-Boulet, and Reifers ties it right up 1-1.
So the Crunch weathered the storm early on and leveled things off throughout the majority of the period until the Amerks added another and got the crowd back in it.
And that is, as we've alluded to, going to be a big factor in the course of this game and potentially the next one. How the Crunch manage at the dot, missing a couple of significant centers. Jack Finley out with an injury, and Gabriel Dumont with a suspension. Puck is down in the Crunch's zone now, out in front, score! It's Michael Mersch, and Rochester retakes the lead.
So Michael Mersch regained the lead for the Amerks, and that's where we stand right now, a back-and-forth first period. Rochester leads Syracuse 2-1. Shots on goal brought to you by Not Firm Syracuse and Rochester, both at 7. The Crunch trying to close things out tonight. A win would mean they would move on to the North Division Finals. Syracuse had a great weekend just a week ago and had about everything you could ask for, a 3-2 overtime win and then a 3-0 shutout. Beautiful performances by Max Legacy, and he played his heart out just 1 week ago. So Syracuse trying to close things out tonight. If they do not, we'll be right back here Sunday afternoon for Game 4, once again, if they can't close out tonight. So right after the break, we'll wrap up our first Crunch Intermission Report. The second period is right around the corner. Americans 2, Crunch 1. You're listening to ESPN Radio.